soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force. You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you.
D-Day has come. Early this morning, the Allies began the assault on the northwestern face of Hitler's European forces. Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
On June 6, 1944, the North Nova Scotia Highlanders landed on this spot on Juno Beach, now known as Pleston, North Nova Scotia Highlander. It was the beginning of a year-long fight across Europe that very few of the originals would survive.
Well, as I remember, everybody was in good spirit because we had trained very hard for years, and this is what we trained for. And nobody had the idea of fear. You had some expectation. You didn't know what it was going to be like. But the thing that's rooted in your mind was the fact that you were going to do your job to the best of your ability.
You see all these big shells, got to see all the warships. It was back of us again, and my brother was there. And you could hear them all the way up and down the coast. You could see big balls of fire where they was firing into the coast.
We were supposed to go in on the second wave. And then I think it was the North Shore Regiment and the Queen's Own Rifle was supposed to clear the beaches so far in before we went in. We had to wait. They was a little behind getting the beaches cleared. So that put us behind going in. We was just circling around out there and could see what was going on. It was part of it and hear all the artillery going and stuff like that.
The tide was still coming in. So we landed right up on the beach and went down, and we drove right off, and we never even got our feet wet, you know. Of course, we weren't walking anyway, the vehicles were going, and it was very simple for us. And then there was directors there on the beach telling you to go follow that tape and it'll take you up aboard, you know, up off the beach. Quite a few around, dead bodies in the water.
As we went into shore, we suddenly saw some of the boys that had gone in ahead of us who were wounded. There weren't many, but there were 2 or 3 of them lying there, and I remember that as well as something that suddenly made us realize, you know, this is a real thing.
The only trouble we had was an armored car coming on us. It was the SS. We didn't know it at the time until the next day, or later on before we found out who they were.
We really didn't get into anything heavy until the next day, like when we hit the 12th Panzer Division.
That 88, far as I'm concerned, that was the best weapon they had in any of the armies. Because that was deadly. They used it for artillery, for anti-aircraft. They'd even snipe at you with them. But they could knock our tanks out just as fast as they come out.
And so those were they had about 4 of them out in front of us when we landed, you know. It meant the only people that could take them out was the infantry. That's what held us up, see? We got up to the north shore, but they couldn't clear the road for us to get started because the Jerry's were still there. We had to get those 88s out of there before we could do anything about it.
I come across this war correspondent. He was with sniper fire that was putting him down, and he mentioned the fire was just, the sniper was somewhere. This was in the town.
And they reported to headquarters that we were pinned down from behind. So in just a very few minutes, orders from headquarters came to advance, continue what had been taken care of, which we heard afterwards. It was the Chaudiers had got a woman sniper in a church steeple.
They had gone up and they found who was shooting at them, and they found the rifle under her bed in the mattress, and there was some shells there too, and they knew it was her that was shooting them. And she had been firing at it, these fellas. She was married to one of the Germans. She shot 3 or 4. That was enough for these, the Quebecers.
Got on the tanks and we started off and we done good. It was open country, like there was a few little villages, but we just bypassed them and never stopped for them at all. And we went until it started getting dark and we had to stop. We ran into some pretty heavy artillery for a few times there, but not what we thought we were going to hit.
Throughout the night near Annecy, the North Novies encountered patrols, skirmishes, mortar attacks, and even attempted encirclement by the SS. Several Panzer Grenadiers were captured, and after Sherbrooke Fusilier tanks fired on and set ablaze German half-tracks, the enemy withdrew. This was a mere sign of worse things soon to come for the North Nova Scotia Highlanders.
Three towns would always stick in my mind: Labisson, Buron, and Nothing. They went right into Labisson down the main road, and the tanks came around to the sides. Our fellows dismounted, so did the tank men dismount. They fought in, our fellows fought out, cleared all the buildings, and that's all there was to it. It was so simple. It seemed too simple. It was. Then when we hit Buron, the people in the houses, so they were getting thicker. And so it was taking us longer to clear them, you know, but the method we had seemed to work because we went in and the other fellows came from the outside and we went working out, you know. So they couldn't run out the back door or they were caught, or they come out the front door, we had them. So it worked great until we hit Authy.
These wheat fields we see here between Authy and Buron were truly a scene of chaos on June 7, 1944. This was the first real encounter with the 12th SS by the North Nova Scotia Highlanders, and it was their real baptism of fire here in Normandy.
We started into Authy, and all hell lit loose. Our troops dismounted and tried to set up a defense. And then all of a sudden the tanks came and they started to shell. And our boys were starting to run out of ammunition.
We had no support. We got too far ahead. And the artillery couldn't reach us. And the tanks pretty well knocked out what we had. And we found out afterwards that Abbey Dennis there, the headquarters, they could see everything we was doing. And We just soon be moving, and they just pumped the artillery to us. Mr. Man, I'm telling you, some wicked there, just sheets of flame all around you, which will explode. Machine guns rolled.
When the fire started on the tanks, when we were on the tanks, and we ran into the fire from the people on the ground. I had moved with the fellows who had the guns and the ammunition. I had moved them over to the left. I was going to try to send some fire up to where these guns were. I could see where these guns were firing from, not realizing, of course, that these guns were a heavy German gun. And then we come under heavy fire in there.
The fighting was very heavy ahead of us and around us. The orders came to destroy our weapons and everybody for himself.
We had two companies surrounded. We tried to get them out. And I don't know how many trips we tried to get up. There's hedges and bushes like along the road. And we tried to get up through there, but like I said, they could see us moving. And as soon as they seen us moving, they put the artillery right to us.
So my buddy Eddie Carroll and I, we grabbed our grenades off the bank and destroyed the set and took off. Everybody fended for themselves. And from there, it was kind of chaos because everybody was running, that was still alive, running through the field, the grain field, to get back to where the machine gun, some Ottawa machine gun outfits were set up along a stone wall there. And some of us got back there.
You couldn't hear it. In fact, I couldn't run over one of our own tanks. Never heard them coming. I was behind a little mound of mud there, which was shelling, and I just ducked behind that for a little bit of protection. And I felt the ground vibrating. I looked up, and this big track was over top me. Well, it was a good thing that the mound of mud was high enough when the track went over, he was up in the air. And I just rolled out of the way when she came down and slammed down on the ground. But it hadn't been for the vibration on the ground, I never knew he was there. You couldn't hear so much noise, the shells exploded.
And that was pretty much the end of that day. We had lost C Company and 120 taken prisoner because our tanks were all knocked out and the German tanks were surrounding everybody and took control. So we had 80 dead that night.
Approximately 200 were either wounded, missing, or taken prisoner. They would not know until much later that 13 of the men taken prisoner from the battle would be murdered by the SS at the Abbey d'Ardenne. For 30 days, the North Novies would settle into Hell's Corner until they finally took Outhie.
I had a ringside seat and watched the bombers come in, the night fighters and bombers, and the days in the morning, early in the morning, daybreak, and then the artillery barrage, and then you knew the battle was going on. But I remember this Pathfinder coming in, and he's the guy, he circled the targets and dropped the flares until he was shot down. And then this was daylight because we saw flares at night, the bombs, but then at daylight when the Americans come in, and you'd see the Pathfinder, and then you could see the stick of bombs coming out. They look like slow motion coming down until they hit, and then the explosions.
Oh, Mr. Men, the bombers that come in, they bombed that place. As far as I'm concerned, I think they just bombed it for nothing. Bombed the whole city down. I don't think there's too many Germans in there.
As we were going over the rubble and getting through, a woman come out from a basement somewhere with a bottle of cognac saying Vive la France and hugging everybody she could. Why she was there, nobody knew, or how she survived, nobody knew.
It was a day or two before I went through it, and by that time we were just going through rubble. Like I told you, the engineers come through with bulldozers and made a road path almost straight through Caen to connect up with the Follies.
Lieutenant Colonel Petch wanted the attack to occur before daylight, but it was insisted that the artificial moonlight provided by the searchlights would be excellent. That decision would prove costly to the North Novies.
Tilly went in after dark. Well, they had geared up something great they thought it was, artificial light. And they tried that night and put it up and lit everything up. Well, you hear them coming, someone that speak English, you know, and come on, you Canadians, come on, get it. We couldn't see them, but they'd see us.
I was the signal that was back. We have 3 signals to the 200. Hugh Austin, and I'm not sure the other fellow, they went in that night under the searchlights. And I can only tell you what Hugh told me afterwards. He said it was, well, what they call a blunder, because the searchlights were silhouetting you. And he said that they were so close to German trenches that they could hear them talk. And they could sneak back out of there on their belly, as the saying goes, because it was quite disorganized after they get in there.
And it got dark, and we didn't know where they were, and they didn't know where we were. But the next day, they started surrendering, you know, and some of them were getting in the bushes, like, and one fellow would stand up, and they were surrendering, he was surrendering. And so he'd go take him prison for the stand-back machine gun, shooting our guys. Well, it didn't take long for to catch on to that. They fellows stood up.
We took a piece there, and then there was a big field, and then the Germans start coming across the field, and I had a young fellow with me, and I was firing we were on the outpost bombers. My Jesus, what happened there? They started pouring out, the Germans, and I kept firing, and of course every time you fired, somebody dropped.
Majority of it was small arm fire and some heavier stuff, and we were going full bore towards. We couldn't see any of the Germans because they were in slit trenches or hedges or whatever, but they were there because that's where the stuff was coming from. And I heard the burn gun stop firing. And I turned my head and I said, "What do you want me to do now?" And he said, "Just keep moving."
They had the searchlights shining in the air there that was supposed to show us up. That was then to show us coming. When they get in there, my God, the place, I don't think that nobody ever took it until they put a big drive on and went through there. But they had, it's just barricaded, all kinds of defense there. And he didn't even know where anybody was. You see somebody, you get over where they were, try to get together with somebody, scattered all over the field everywhere. Everybody was just trying to find a little bit of cover. The machine gun was so bad, mortars.
It was daylight when we went in, but it hadn't been daylight very long. I saw maybe a dozen Novies laying on the ground, and I cannot tell you, I didn't see any of them moving.
This is the direction the carriers traveled into Tilly-le-Campagne. They would eventually enter the orchard where they would confront the first of Gerhard Stiller's panzers. They would then turn around, go in the opposite direction, and that's when they encountered the second of Gerhard Stiller's panzers, and they had to jump out of the carrier from that point.
We didn't get more than, I would say, 75 or 80 yards at the very most. And the tank come out in front of us, crossways, and we're swinging around, and the corporal said, "Yeah, look at the tank." And I said, "Yeah, but look at the logo on that SOB." So I just hard left turned on the steering wheel, down with the left foot, locked the left track, and about turned and the back around the corner, and bingo, there's another one sitting there waiting for us. Immediately, the other three members of the crew departed. I was sitting down in the driver's seat, and I stood up on the seat, and the tank was sitting there facing me. And it was a 75 millimeter gun, but the hole in it looked to be that big. The only reason I'm still here to talk about it is that one of two things. Either they decided, well, what the hell, why bother whacking this guy? He's not much of a threat to us. Or they were laughing themselves silly at my antics trying to get my rifle free, which the sling was stuck on something. As soon as that freed up, well, I'm up on the top of over the hood and out of the carrier and headed for this house. I would guess probably the same thought would be going through my mind as what might have been going through the most of the other guys in there. When is that tank going to open up and blow us all to hell? The one of them said, "Austrian Männer mit den Händen luften." Well, I didn't understand too much German, but I understood enough of that. When we went out the door, I had my hands, as I'd been instructed, hands up. And the one German soldier, the one that had given the order, was standing there with his rifle pointed right at me. And the other German soldier just cradled his rifle under his arm, and he motioned.
They were tough. I seen places where we had to kill them all, that they stuck to their holes, and the only way you could take them out was kill them.
Really good. Like I say, they were fanatics. They didn't care. That's all they were. They were just kids, like, and that's all they knew.
During the battle, when everything seemed hopeless, Lieutenant Colonel Petch and COs of other units confronted their superior officers. They felt to continue the battle at that point futile. Harsh words were exchanged, and not long after the failure to take Tilly, all, including Petch, were sacked. Don Forbes would then take command of the North Nova Scotia Highlanders.
The camaraderie was unbelievable. I often think that many of the battalions feel the same way, like you're not just a battalion of soldiers, you're kind of a family of soldiers, as the saying goes.
They were a good bunch of fellas to be with, and the job they done. Either way, you just like one big family. You first went in there, was trained here in Amherst, and for your over in England, it was like one big family.
When I seen these fellas with no retreating background, they never retreated. And I was with them all the time. And that's why I taught so much of them. They had that. It's in there, right there, no retreating footsteps. That's a hard goddamn thing to have. But they never took a backward step.
I was proud to be in North Nova. And it's the people you got to know, whether officers or everybody. I don't care whether he's in C Company or B, D, he was your buddy. And that's the way I felt, and I think most of them felt the same way.
I was just one of the boys in those days, I guess.
You still are. Bretteville Canadian Military Cemetery holds 2,958 Canadian military servicemen killed in the Con Fallet area. Of those, many are North Nova Scotia Highlanders buried far away from home, but they will never be forgotten.
Fare thee well, love. Fare thee well, love, far away. You must go. Take your heart, love. Take your heart.
It was a unit from down Nova Scotia. North Nova's the regiment's name. 3 years they waited in England, then the 0 hour it came. The young lads who were ready for action knew this was to be their big chance, so they said goodbye to old Blighty, and on D-Day they landed in France.
They fought their way up from the beaches. Those Hun counterattacks, they were bold. But the orders came down from the colonel. Men, the ground we have, we must hold. While moaning minis burst round them, they fought fiercely to hold back the Hun. The shelling was something ungodly, but each man stood fast to his gun.
They kept throwing it back at the Jerrys, as around them their buddies they fell. Out there in front of the spearhead, the North Novas were going through hell. At long last the line was completed, as Monty kept pouring them in. Now the Boche was off to the races. In his heart, he must know he can't win.
Those lads, they weren't out there for glory. They knew that a job must be done, and the courage they showed there in action was tops and second to none. Here's a salute to the Novies. May their deeds be known to the world. Remember the fighting North Novas when the victory flag is unfurled.
Come back, love. Oh, come back, love.
pretty damn good. The Canadians were a pretty good soldier. We had to be. We beat the best troops in the world, Germans.